So let us say hello now to Savannah Marshall, who is kind enough to join us here on the program. Nice to meet you, Savannah. Thank you very much for the time.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
It is a pleasure, and I'm very intrigued by what is about to, unfold, transpire on Saturday. I'm just curious. You've been in a lot of big fights. You've competed on the biggest of stages, obviously the Olympics, etc. In addition to the title fights. On this Wednesday before the Saturday fight, can you describe the nerves, the anxiety? You are walking into the great unknown. This is a whole new world for you. How are you dealing with it all?
Do you know what? I'm actually waiting for the nerves to kick in. I think it's not like fight week for a boxing match. It's totally different, and it's exciting. For a long time now, I don't think I've experienced nerves really fight week for boxing. So because this is all new, I'm waiting for them to kick in, but it's not today.
Do you think there's a chance that they won't kick in?
Maybe, but I doubt it. Look, I've never been in the cage before. I've never walked to a fight in flip flops before. So for me, this is all, like you said, the unknown.
Okay. Did you reach out to PFL, or did they reach out to you first with this idea many moons ago?
No, so how it come about? It was after my fight with Clarissa at the O2. Obviously, she signed with the PFL. They approached me and said, "Look, have you ever thought about doing MMA? Would you consider a potential matchup with Clarissa in the cage?" And that was it. I was like, yeah, why not? It's not something I've thought about, but it's got my ears pricked, and I'm invested.
So it never crossed your mind before. This was never something on the bucket list for you, or on the to-do list, if you will.
It was never on the bucket list, but when lockdown hit in 2020, I remember seeing MMA fighters were getting a lot more opportunities than what female boxers were. So I did a little bit, and when I say a little, I mean, a couple of sessions with Molly McCann and Leah McCart in Liverpool. And I remember thinking, look, like nothing's taken off for women boxers. So let's give it a go. And then women's boxing went through the roof, and we were getting all these opportunities, and I got a world title opportunity.
Okay. And so when they approach you, do they approach you with the, idea like, hey, you fight once or twice and we'll do the rematch with Clarissa? Is that what this is all about?
So it's they've given me a 4-fight deal. And I think it's all about what happens on Saturday to go from there, whether I'll get the Clarissa rematch in the cage, whether I don't. Obviously, there's a lot of politics and things go behind it, but that is the goal for me.
When you watch Clarissa fight in MMA, and I know you were at her fight in Saudi Arabia back in February, what is your assessment of how she looks in there?
To be honest, before I started training myself, I was really critical. And then when I started doing it myself, I thought, right, I can see how she's struggling now, because to transition from boxing to MMA, it's a lot harder than what I thought, a lot harder.
So here we have two of the, 10 best pound for pound fighters in the world as far as women's boxing is concerned, and they're going over to MMA. Any of the, top 10 male pound for pound boxers aren't even sniffing MMA. They're not even considering it. What's the difference here? Why are the women considering it? And Amanda Serrano has obviously signed with PFL, and she's fought in MMA before, and she says she's going to do it. So that would be 3. What's the difference between the male and the females?
From my experience, you can't have an ego in MMA. That's what I've learned, especially coming from boxing, because you literally, if you've even BJJ, if you've never rolled before, you get humbled very, very quickly. And I think women deal with that a lot easier than men.
That is really interesting. And so I'm wondering, how have you been dealing with it? Because you guys are coming in, and you in particular, but I asked Clarissa this exact question. You are so used to being on top, and you've been boxing since you were, I think, 11 or 12 years old, right? And so you've perfected it, and now you humble yourself to where you're a white belt, to where you don't even know what to do, right? It's just such a different world. Even the stance is different. And so how do you deal with that? Are there moments where you're driving home and you're like, what the hell did I sign up for? Why am I doing this? Why do I have to reprogram my brain? How have you dealt with that journey to get to Saturday?
100%. Like you said there, I've went from being elite. I've went from not really even thinking about what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll go in the boxing gym and I'll do 10 rounds on the bags and I'll not even be thinking about what I'm doing. Maybe I'm thinking about going shopping or something. Whereas in this, I literally can't switch off for a second. And I do, and before you know, I'm in a choke and I've had a tap. And very, very early on, there was times I'd be driving home from sessions thinking, what on earth have I left myself in for? I'd be shaking because it's been that intense where physically, mentally, I haven't been able to switch off for a second. And in boxing, because I've done it for that long, it's really become second nature. It's muscle memory. I don't really have to really think about what I'm doing. It's so reactive.
Was there ever a point where you thought this isn't for me and I've made a mistake and I should back out?
No, because I'm really enjoying it. You think I've boxed for 20 plus years. So 20 years of jab, 1-2, 1-2 hook, uppercut. There's only so many variety of punches you can throw. There's only so many camps you can have, and they very rarely change. Whereas this, there's your BJJ, your wrestling, your kicking. Every session is different, and every session I'm learning something new. And for me, you think you've done the same thing for 23 years just to be shown the most basic, simple, new technique. I've really, really fell in love with it.
Wow. Were there people around you, teammates, handlers, confidants who were like, please don't do this. You're still one of the best in the world. You don't need to do this. Were there people who were trying to convince you to not sign with PFL?
No, not really. More my family and friends, because they're not MMA fans.
Mm,
And when you're watching it, you think, wow, that is brutal. That is so dangerous. But actually, I think because it is that dangerous, it's so very controlled. I've probably had more injuries in a boxing camp than what I have in this MMA camp,
really?
which is quite bizarre. Yeah. I think because it's so controlled, because you can get injured so easy.
I'm
Do you understand
surprised
what
to
I
hear that
like?
because you're using your whole body in MMA, right? And so there's so many more
Yeah.
targets.
Don't get me wrong, very early on, couldn't move my neck,
Yeah.
lower back continuously stiff. But in boxing, I think it's you spar, you go all out. Obviously, when I've been sparring, you get kicked, you get kneed in the head, you get kicked in the head full force. Do you know, it's a lot more harmful
Hmm.
rather than boxing. You put 16-ounce gloves on. You
Yeah.
sparring here, they're a lot smaller. We don't wear red guards.
What was the toughest thing to get used to so far?
Bizarrely, for me, transitioning my boxing stance.
Yeah.
I was your typical leaning on the back foot. Can't do that because I'll get took down straight away. I was quite side on. Can't do that because you've got to defend a takedown. Hands below me waist. Can't do that because there's kicks coming. I'm not just looking out for hands.
Yeah.
So the hardest part for me was totally just overhaul of me, what worked for me in boxing.
Hmm. And you joked about the flip flops. What about just competing barefoot? How's that?
Oh, honestly, my feet have never looked so ugly.
Uh,
Oh, it's the pain in the feet is just next level. It's something I've never ever thought about. I've always wore boxing boots,
yeah.
and to come in the gym, I've got no skin on my feet. My toenails are falling off. It's yeah, total different. I felt like a bit of a diva in boxing, and in this, you're totally stripped down.
So who have you been training with in preparation for this? I hear some famous people.
So I've been training with Andy Aspinall,
Hmm.
and I've known Andy for about 7 years now. So when I first turned professional with my coach Peter Fury, he had another boxer who was Tom Aspinall, and his dad was always there, Andy. And I think Tom had one fight with Peter when I first joined the stable, and then he wrapped in the boxing to concentrate on the MMA. But he'd always, over the 7 years, he'd always come spar Peter's other fighters. So I've had like a bit of a relationship, and I've known them for a while. And when this opportunity come about, Andy and Tom are the only people I really know in that sport. So reached out to Andy, can I come and do a bit of training? He's like, yeah, of course you can come along. And I'm in such good hands, really good hands.
Oh yeah, two legends in their own right. My understanding is Tom will be in your corner on Saturday. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so Andy, Tom, and there's another brother called Joe. So I've got the full Aspinall family in the corner.
Wow, that is amazing. You got the interim champ in your corner. You got his dad in there. Is that Tom's brother, Joe?
Yeah, Tom's brother, who's
Wow,
also a black belt in BJJ.
that's quite the squad.
Yeah, it is.
Well
It
done.
is.
Well, and so have you been in there with like Phil DeFries and Mick Parkin and all those guys?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously Mick and Phil are from Sunderland, where I'm from in the northeast, which is literally 10 miles from where I'm from. So it's nice to have people from up north, but also because look, I'm not an MMA, I'm not from that MMA background. There's been all sorts of legends coming in the gym, sparring, training. So really, I'm really blessed that I'm around MMA royalty all the time.
Any women there for you to train with?
There's a girl who comes in, does a little bit of training with me, but there's I haven't trained with no professionals really.
Wow. And you're okay with that? Like in terms of, grappling, sparring, you're training with men?
Um, I've I've been grappling with a couple of women because
Okay.
obviously women are a lot more flexible and that sort of thing. But the stand up, it's more with the men.
Wow. Good for you. Well done. Is there a chance that you like this so much and it all goes so great on Saturday that you don't box again?
Maybe, but look, boxing is my bread and butter, and I want to get back in the ring. I do. I was supposed to box in March. That fell through. I'm just so grateful that the PFL were there to say, look, we'll give you an opportunity. How about making your debut? And I'm glad because would I've still been sat on the shelf waiting for a boxing opportunity? Probably, yeah. But at least this way, I'm keeping active. I'm still doing a fight camp. I'm still doing the whole fight week, the ring walk, nerves, that sort of thing. Cage rust, whether it's a thing or not. But
It is.
I'm still, like I said, I'm still keeping my foot in the door, really.
One thing I'm fascinated about is that I feel, and correct me if you feel otherwise, the women's MMA fighters on the whole, regardless of where they're at, tend to get paid more than the women's boxers, which is interesting because the male boxers tend to get paid more than the male MMA fighters. Would you say that's the same here? Are you making more for this fight than you would in a big boxing match?
Um, well, my last couple of boxing fights have been big, big
Yeah,
boxing fights,
yeah.
so I'm not getting paid as much. But I do think, especially for me, where I'm at now, there's more opportunity for me in MMA. Even though I'm undisputed middleweight champion, especially for women at the higher weights in boxing, there's not many women there.
Hmm.
The pool's not as deep as if it was 60 kilo women, 57 kilo. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano.
Yeah.
There's loads of girls at that weight. The higher weight, the pool's very, very shallow. So really, another big fight for me is Clarissa. And if it doesn't come off in the ring, I've got a chance of it coming off in the cage.
Why hasn't it come off in the ring?
Oh, boxing politics.
Uh,
Boxing politics, always the
whose
same.
fault? Whose fault is it? Let's point fingers. Whose fault is it?
The promoters.
Okay, all right. Which one in particular?
Always,
Let's name names. Is it Dimitri's fault?
that's always Dimitri's fault.
Ah, come
Always
on.
Dimitri's fault.
Really?
No, look, I think it's the whole case of not only that, she wants the rematch in America. My boxing coach can't get into America.
Hmm.
I think it sells more, especially boxing in the UK, because women's boxing, I believe, is a lot more popular in the UK right now than what it is in America. So this whole list, where will it sell better?
Okay. What interests you more, a rematch in boxing or a rematch in MMA?
At the minute, I'm drawn towards MMA because it's a different narrative.
Yeah.
It's the whole, oh, we haven't just got fists this time. We've got kicks, we've got knees, we've got groundwork, submissions. So then, and it's never been done before. Obviously, Connor went to the boxing ring,
Yeah.
but then Lloyd didn't go to the cage. So and I know we're both boxers, it's a whole new narrative.
By the way, some of the MMA fans out there may not know this. You debuted on that card back in 2017, the Maymat card.
Did you?
It's a
Did
crazy,
you?
yeah, that's wild. What do you remember from that night?
Oh God, I boxed at about 4 o'clock. There was about 30 people in the arena.
Yeah.
And then I got asked to leave straight after my debut because I didn't have a ticket. So I literally come out the ring, went to changing rooms, bouncer, security come in and said, "Where's your ticket?" I was like, "Oh, I haven't got one. I've just boxed." "No, you need a ticket." Cut my wristband off, and I was
Oh,
hurried out the back. And I
really?
watched the fight. I think in Caesar's Palace, maybe.
Wow. And
Yeah.
did people, like, I'm sure people sitting there had no idea you had fought earlier on the night.
No, not at all.
Did that annoy you?
No.
Did that bum you out?
Yeah, I was filming.
Yeah, I don't blame you. You couldn't call up
Oh, what?
Floyd's team and say, "Yo, I just fought for you guys. What's up?"
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I was on at 4 o'clock. I was a little fish in a big pond. But look, that's boxing.
Right. Do you have any kind of relationship with Floyd anymore?
No, not at all. I literally had my debut. I was over there, Vegas, for about 6 months, and it didn't work out. So I ended up coming back to the UK and signed with McKenzie, Eddie Hearn, Sky Sports.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, it was a really good move for me because, like I said, I think women's boxing in the UK is really where it's at.
It's great right now. It's and you guys get great coverage. You're treated as mainstream stars. I'm wondering though, on the whole, why do you think women's MMA has kind of exploded quicker than women's boxing? Women's boxing in the last couple of years has come a long way, but with Ronda and whatnot, women's MMA I think was getting more attention 10 years ago. Why? What's the difference in your opinion?
From obviously dipping my toe in this MMA, I think worldwide MMA is a bigger sport.
Wow. Okay.
I that's how I think boxing is very old school. That's how I see it. I don't think boxing's really not progressed because how can you progress boxing? But I just think MMA. I think women get the same coverage men do.
Yeah.
Get the same opportunities where it's only been since COVID. Female boxers have been given opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and even still now, very rarely you see women headline. Although we do get on cards. I think me and Clarissa, obviously Amanda, and Katie, massive. But it's very, very rare you see two women headline, which is a shame.
Do you find yourself watching more MMA now?
Oh God, yeah. Me Instagram news feed is just full of BJJ. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And as part of them, obviously you want to win, but part of the motivation to look better than Clarissa, to be more dominant.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I'd love to say I've done it better.
I love that. That's the way it should be. By the way, just curious, a couple weeks ago we had Dimitri in studio and we got into a bit of a debate. I have long said and believed that Katie Taylor is the greatest women's boxer of all time. He obviously thinks Clarissa, and we were going back and forth. Can I ask your opinion? Who do you think is the GOAT, so to speak?
Obviously, I've been beat off Clarissa, so I want to say I've been beat off the best. So I want to say I've been beat off the best. But however, I do think that, like I said earlier, the lighter weights there's a lot more competition, a hell of a lot more competition. Like Katie, Delphine Pursoon, you've got Amanda Serrano, Chantel Cameron. These are back-to-back huge competitive fights. And you can say, has Clarissa ever really been tested like she was with me? No, not really. Even now she's moving up a weight because there's no one really there to test her, to compete against, which is sad, but it's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. So look, for pound on paper, for what they've achieved, it's got to be Katie for me.
Is she going to be there, Clarissa, on Saturday?
Well, I'd seen her in Saudi a couple of months ago when she fought, and I'd said, "Oh, you've got to come to my debut." I was like, "I've sat here rings cage side and ripped you, so you've got to come and slander me." And she said she'd come. So whether or not she does, I've just seen she's got a fight coming up, so she might be in camp. But I hope she comes.
Okay. And last thing, what's the experience so far? And I know there's still a few days left, but just being with PFL, a new promotion, they're trying to create their own, spot in the sport. How do you feel like you're being treated? How do you like it so far?
The PFL are great. Honestly, since day dot, I feel like I said, I've just been treated amazingly. It's all equal. It's not like they've got favourites or anything like that. It's like you'd see sometimes in boxing, you're heading the card. They've got the red carpet out. No, everyone gets treated really, really well, and it's nice. It's nice to see whether you're at the top of the card or the bottom of the card.
Hmm.
That's nice.
I think you'll find that in MMA. It's quite common, and I know you. I saw an interview that you did with Adam Smith where you talked about how the fans come in. Maybe it was with him, but that was a great piece, by the way, on their YouTube channel. But it was just like the fans show up early for all the fights. They know the ones on the bottom of the card compared to the top. It's all the same, and there's a lot more quality. And your point is a great one. I feel like in MMA, women, no one bats an eye when it's a card with 10 fights that are male fights. Main event is women. No one says that they're getting a lesser product. No one feels like they're getting anything, that's different than the rest of the card. It's all the same. And I don't know if that's always the case with boxing. Boxing has a little growing up to do in that regard. So I love the fact that you're doing this. I wish you nothing but the best. I will be watching. I can't wait for it. And I really hope that you smash it and you do better than Clarissa so that we can maybe get that rematch in the cage. That would be a great story. So good luck to you. Thank you for the time and can't wait to see it all unfold on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. It's a pleasure. There she is, Savannah Marshall, the super middleweight champion of the WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO, and Ring Magazine. Also the former WBO middleweight champion. She had a great fight back in 2022 with Clarissa Shields. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel. So please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.